Okay, so welcome everybody to this introduction and this Q&A session on the upcoming expanded Yoga Sutra study series, which will start in 2 weeks. So I wanted to give the reason for the study and also a big picture overview of the Yoga Sutras, so you're motivated. I conducted a Yoga Sutra, the complete Yoga Sutra study about 4 years ago. It started nearly 4 years ago, and I did it for over a year. It was rather a compressed study, and that was the first time I did the Yoga Sutra study, and I felt that a text as useful as this needs more explanation. And that is the reason for this expanded study. When I did the Bhagavad Gita study, which was over nearly 2 years, about 90 plus classes, it was very comprehensive. I used the Shankara Bhashya following Swami Paramarthananda's discourses. And to this day, I felt that I'd done the correct job, the respect that the text deserved. But with the Yoga Sutras, I felt that there was something missing, which is why I wanted to go more into detail and make it comprehensive so that I don't have to repeat it. So that is the reason for this upcoming study. Now, first, I'll try to motivate you. We have so many things to do in our lives. And why should we study these Yoga Sutras? So this entire study, I'm planning to do it over 25 classes. So we will start with the first chapter. So there are 4 chapters in the Yoga Sutras. The first chapter is all about the mind and how it works and the different states of meditation, samadhi. So we will do this over 8 classes, and then we'll take a small break, a few weeks, and then we'll start with the second chapter. So totally like this 25 classes. This is what I am envisioning. And this will be different from the previous study in that this will be more comprehensive, and we will use a lot more analogies, and my own understanding of the Yoga Sutras has deepened since 4 years ago after studying a lot of Vedanta and Sankhya, and I will incorporate numerous analogies into this study. Okay, now to motivate, so we are busy. So why study the Yoga Sutras? So the reason why one should study is as follows. Yoga Sutras, the philosophy, it gives you a big picture view of life. So when we feel constrained and narrow and feel that life has less options, then what happens? Stress builds up in life. So for example, see this picture. When you go look at Grand Canyon, the vastness expands. Naturally, you feel a stress relief. And similarly, when you study a text which crosses lifetimes, then you feel a sense of ease. So that is the reason for the study of a text like that. Now, yoga is the art and science of stilling the mind. Okay, so there are 6 philosophies in ancient India. These are called Shad Darshanas. All these philosophies, they are based on the Vedas. So Vedas were the revealed scriptures. They were Paurusheya Pramanam, which means sages, when they were meditating, all these were revealed to them. So Paurusheya means they don't have authorship of a person. So most of those Vedas, they don't have authorship. So these 6 philosophies, they are based on the Vedas, and they are called the Astika Darshana, which means Astika means belief in the Veda. Asti, it is accepted, and the belief in the Vedas. So these darshanas, they are the Sankhya Yoga, then there is Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa. Uttara Mimamsa is also called Vedanta. Purva Mimamsa is all about rituals. So how you can do all these rituals to purify yourself for better lives. And then there's Nyaya, which is logic, and Vaisheshika, which is metaphysics. So these are compared to pairs of sisters, or to be gender neutral, siblings. Okay, anyway, Sankhya and Yoga, they form a pair. Sankhya gives the theory, it's the all encompassing theory, how creation happened very logically, it goes through everything. And Yoga and Sankhya also tells the ultimate goal is liberation from the cycle of births and deaths. And Yoga tells how to do this, how to purify your mind so you are able to get this liberation. The Nyaya and Vaisheshika, again, friendly sisters, they are logic and metaphysics. And then the last pair, Purva Mimamsa and Vedanta, they are quarreling. They're all exactly opposite, because Purva Mimamsa is also the initial portion of the Vedas. They talk about rituals to get to higher heavens and all that, whereas Vedanta talks about escape from the cycle of births and deaths. Vedanta is considered, so some of you have been attending the Vedanta classes, it is all encompassing. It takes Sankhya, Yoga, and it presents a unified theory which is in line with the Vedas. So this is the context of how yoga comes in. So yoga is heavily based on Sankhya with a few small differences. And Sankhya, in its original form, is called Nirishwara Sankhya, which means it is doesn't even acknowledge God. It's agnostic. You don't even need God to explain any of these things. Whereas yoga includes God as a tool to fix the mind on. Samadhi Siddhirishwara Pranidhanat. You can attain samadhi by surrendering to this entity called Ishvara. In the Yoga Sutras, it says. Okay, now, so yoga, as I said, it's the art and science of stilling the mind. Okay, and feel free to ask questions if you want. So, the fundamental theory of all these six philosophies is that you, the observer, the subject, you are the subject which is observing everything, is different from your body. You, remember I'm saying the body is like a cloth. You are different from the body. Not just that, you are also different from the mind. This is a profound statement that all these philosophies make. Why is that true? Logically, it says anything that you can see, anything that's an object to your perception is not you. This we can all agree, right? If you see a mountain, you know you're not a mountain. If you anything you see is not you. Therefore, it says when you sit and contemplate in meditation, when your mind becomes still, you can clearly observe the mind as the thought comes and it goes. Therefore, it says even the mind is not you. So mind is also a temporary entity that you are taking on. And the body is like a cloth you wear. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Vasansi jirnani yata vihaya navani grannati naroparani tata sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani sanyati navani dehi. Like a person casting off old clothes, the jiva, the purusha, that is the real you, takes on new bodies till the karmas get depleted. Okay, so look at this example. So you have a person that is looking at a beautiful scenery, sitting in an airplane. The plane is going to descend, and it's a beautiful scenery, a forest, rainforest down there. Now, if the glass that one is seeing through is foggy, scratched, the experience is not good. And yoga says, you, the Purusha, that is the real you, is witnessing the world through the mind. The mind is not you, but it is a very important tool for you to transact with the world. So, yoga tells how you defog and smoothen the window so the window is clear and you get a good perception. Otherwise, you get a distorted perception of the world. So that is yoga. And in fact, yoga, the way Patanjali describes is yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the cessation of the um, vrittis, or the variations, the thought processes, the fluctuations of the mind. So in yoga, the mind is looked at as it's very akin to a movie theater. So you are nothing but the consciousness. It is called the Purusha. Okay, this consciousness, you can think of it as the movie theater. In those days, they used to have this projector light and film and all that. Now it's all replaced by digital DLP. But this film is information from the sensors. So during a waking state, it moves in this direction, right? And this light projects through the film onto a screen. That screen is called the chitta. So constantly, if you look at the mind, so in yoga, the mind has four portions. So the mind is divided into manas, which is the memory, feelings distributed throughout the body. Then there is the buddhi, the intellect, that's the prefrontal cortex. Remember, mind is not all here, it's distributed throughout the body. So manas, the memory, because you have the stomach, is a great place for storing all the memory, and also the abdominal area. It's very rich in nerves, and it's called the second brain, in fact. So manas is distributed throughout the body. That's a storehouse of memory, feelings, everything. Buddhi is the intellect, people associate it with the prefrontal cortex. Then ahankara, that is a sense of ego. I am a man, I am a woman, a teacher, father, mother, all that. Then there is finally the chitta. Chitta is not chit. Chit is the consciousness, that is you. Chitta is something, chittiva bhavayati chittam, that is something very close to the consciousness. It looks like it is conscious. Why? Because it is the light falling. The chitta is the screen of the mind on which the light falls. It looks like it's radiating light, but it's a reflected light. This is called the chitta. Okay, so the all from the senses, you have all the information flowing during waking state, and from the memory, the subconscious, during dream state, the film starts to move the other way. So that is how the mind operates. You are the pure light. If the screen is not good, it's scratchy, it's jaded, you don't see the image properly. So your goal in yoga is to purify the screen with the help of this light. Okay, so you understand, of course, the transactions with the world become better, but more importantly, you understand your own true nature, so you don't suffer. So that is yoga in a nutshell. Yoga is this process which helps you clean up the mind, so the turbulence of the mind is reduced. Chitta vritti nirodha. Vritti, it's like a whirlpool, like it's all those fluctuations. The vritti, every vritti is like, think of it like a round fluctuation that's happening in your mind. So that is the process of yoga. Okay. Now, so far, are there any questions? So yoga, the Yoga Sutras talks in detail. It's a primer on the mind and how you still the mind. Okay, let me go into the organization. Okay, the Yoga Sutra is organized as 4 chapters. The first chapter is called Samadhi Pada. This is a very dense chapter, and it defines a yoga practice. It defines what a mind is, what are the different types of fluctuations, vrittis, what are the different types of vrittis that happen in the mind. And then it talks about all these advanced states of samadhi, all the way, how to still the mind. So it says that pratishedatam ekatattvabhyasaha, the solution to all the maladies, the problems, dukkha, daurmanasya, the trembling of the limbs, sorrow, dejection, depression, Solution to all that, Patanjali says, is one pointed mind. So he says, Tat pratishedartam ekatatvabhyasaha. Then Patanjali goes on to say, Maitri karuna mudito pekshanam sukha dukkha punya vishayanam bhavana chitta prasadanam. Because we encounter people all the time, we have to change our attitude towards how we have to interact with people. He says, so he talks about how you deal with different types of people, because that in Buddhism it's called loving kindness meditation. That is one of the things. And being completely apathetic to people who are wicked and cruel. So this is how your mind does not get affected. At the same time, you act without turbulence of the mind, doing what is needed. So, and then finally, he gives many ways to still the mind. And he says, Vishayavati va pravritti utpanna manasa sthiti nibandini vishoka va jyotishmati. When during meditation you get these pleasant thoughts, you sometimes smell a rose, sometimes his taste come, great, use that as an anchor to still the mind, Patanjali says. Finally, he makes a very profound statement in the 39th sutra. He says, yatapi matadhyanatva. So um, let's see if I have a article. There's by whatever means possible, you should be able to still the mind. So different ways of doing it. And finally, Patanjali here says, yatapi matatyanatva, by any method possible, try to still the mind. Okay, so that is the first chapter is all about the mind, how the mind works, how you still the mind, yoga practice, and different states of samadhi. The second is the most relevant for most people. Patanjali talks about the mridu madhyadi matratva tatopi visheshaha. He defines three types of practice. One is the Raja Yoga, that was in the first chapter. That's advanced adhimatra, very intense practice for advanced people. Then for middle people, madhya, that is the middle path, ashtanga yoga, he defines. And then for the people who are very busy, he defines what is called a kriya yoga. Tapas ishvara pranidhanani kriya yoga. Tapas, which is austerity, very important for yogis. Swadhyaya, self-control. So that is Swadhyaya, is reflection or reading the scriptures about the self. Then Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender to this entity which is bigger, called Ishvara. And then he discusses the first 5 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. Then comes the one thing I have to tell you is the sutras are like a scientific document. Okay, and let me pull a thing. Okay, so people often ask this question, how so yoga, the Bhagavad Gita is also a scripture, it's a yoga shastra. Yoga sutras is also a yoga shastra, authoritative scripture on yoga. What's the difference between the two? The difference is that sutra is like a scientific document, the Bhagavad Gita is like poetry. So a scientific document, what does it say? It says how the process of yoga, what is the object, that's the mind, that's where you work on this, and the process is the instrument, that's the yoga practice. And then also what are the effects? So the effects, for that there is the Patanjali has a full chapter, and this chapter is called the Vibhuti Pada. The Vibhuti Pada has all the effects of yoga, and he doesn't talk about ordinary effects. He talks about effects which people in this world consider superhuman. Siddhis, Vibhuti. Vibhuti means glories. So And he first discusses the last three limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, which is about Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, three states of meditation, and then he goes into the Siddhis, details. So people wonder, why are Siddhis mentioned? Because it's a scientific document, okay? And in the second Sadhana Pada, he talks about a lot of this theory. He says all the problems in the world are is due to the identification of the Purusha with the Prakriti. When you start identifying you are the screen, this window which is scratched, that's where the problems happen. Now when you detach and say, okay, I'm viewing through the screen, but I'm not the screen, and then you start polishing the screen with detachment and you defog the screen, then you are able to do everything in a detached, peaceful way. You are not stressed and worried because, oh, my body is not looking good. No, it's temporary. Then I'll take another body till I get liberation. That will be your attitude. It gives a lot of peace of mind to you. And for that reason, one should study all these scriptures. Okay. So, and the final chapter is called Kaivalya Padaha. It's all about Janma, birth. What causes Janma? It is karma. The birth is caused by karma. And so it is this cycle, Janma, karma, and moksha. So all those three interplay, and so escape from this is called moksha, liberation. So some people say this chapter was added later because of the style of this chapter, and it also refutes other theories, especially some of the Buddhist theories. So some people say, oh, maybe it was added later, but it's a very beautiful and profound chapter, Kaivalya Pada. So that is how the Yoga Sutras are organized. Now, it is very important when studying the Yoga Sutras that one interprets everything traditionally. So why is the traditional interpretation important? Because these sutras are very abstruse, very terse, because the reason they were done this way is that in ancient days, they didn't write things down. Thousands of years ago, it's by oral transmission. So they had to pack everything into the sutra form so it's easily transmitted, and a wise person can elaborate on this. So that's why the sutras were done. And to interpret something which is so terse and abstruse, you need a wise person to do that. So that's why a traditional interpretation of the Yoga Sutras is extremely critical. Otherwise, you will be completely misinterpreting. And the problem, unfortunately, these days is several self-proclaimed gurus, they come up with their own interpretation. And in fact, there is a saying in Sanskrit, a very ancient saying. It says, one should flee from a self-taught teacher of the scriptures because it causes a lot of problems. Okay, and Shankaracharya says one who is not versed in the traditional lineage called sampradaya, even that if that person is a knower of all the scriptures, is to be disregarded like a fool. So the scriptures use subtle, often contradictory on the surface language, and it's very highly symbolic, very prone to misinterpretation. For this reason, a traditional interpretation is important. And that is why I have used Swami. So this article goes on about various commentaries available. Okay, I've used Swami. Yes, Anna, you have a question? I think you're muted, Anna. Okay. All right, I will move on. Okay. Okay. The text I've used is Swami Hariharananda Aranya's text. He lived over 100 years ago, and he was a very traditional in the Sankhya lineage, and he was also a yogi. Spent enormous lengths of time meditating. He was a sannyasi, a renunciant monk. He had no agenda, nothing. He gave a very systematic interpretation of the Vyasa Bhashya. So there is only one, there are many commentaries on the Yoga Sutras, but the gold standard, de facto, which everybody else refers, is called the Vyasa Bhashya. And that's written by an author called Vyasa. This Vyasa is not the same person who compiled the Vedas, or also called the Veda Vyasa, who wrote the Mahabharata. No, this is another person. This is the official commentary with deep philosophical interpretation. Then several people wrote sub commentaries on the Vyasa Bhashya. So sub commentaries are, one of the greatest is by Vachaspati Mishra. Vachaspati Mishra is a very unique person in the Indian philosophical world. He lived uh, about 500 years or so ago. This is the gold standard sub commentary, the most authoritative. He is the only person who has written commentaries on all 6 darshanas. We saw that, right? We saw Purva Mimamsa, Sankhya, Yoga, Uttara Mimamsa, and then Nyaya and Vaisheshika. He wrote every one of those commentaries. Sometimes the philosophies, they differed in their viewpoints, and he had no sides. He would just write it true to the original interpretation. So, and there are others too. So we are using the one called Bhaswati, the luminous, by Hariharananda Aranya. Hariharananda Aranya also uses Vachaspati Mishra's interpretation. It is a modern masterpiece written in classical Sanskrit. We are using the English translation, and it's very unique because the author was a practicing yogi and also a Sankhya scholar. So it offers deep practical insight alongside scholarship. Okay. And that is the reason this text was chosen. And the English is also easy to read. And what I've done is I've added numerous analogies from the broader Sankhya texts and also from Vedanta. And that is what we will be studying. So traditional interpretation is very important. And we saw the various commentaries on the Yoga Sutras. So the organization of the Yoga Sutras. Now you may wonder, okay, we are talking about all this yoga. It was written 2500, the Yoga Sutras were written 2500 years ago. Yoga was there for thousands of years before. It was like in time immemorial. So, but who wrote this Yoga Sutras? It was written by a rishi called Patanjali. And there is this Patanjali. He is generally portrayed as the Adi incarnation of Adisesha. This is just a legend. He's shown with half body in the the Ashtanga Yoga chant also. Abahu Purushakaram Shankha Chakra Siddharinam. Abahu means half the body is Purusha, person. Half the body is a snake. Sahasra Shirasam Shvetam Pranamami Patanjalim. Sahasra Shirasam. He has 100 heads. 1,000 heads. What kind of heads? Sahasra, Shirasa, Shvetam. Sahasra means 1,000. Shiras means head. Shvetam means 1,000 white heads. Shvetam means white. So that's how Adisesha, he is the vehicle of Vishnu, or the bed on which Vishnu lies in his cosmic form. So that is Adisesha. So Patanjali, the legend says, is an incarnation of Adisesha, but in truth, he was a rishi. He was called a Siddha. The Siddha, they lived in the state of Tamil Nadu in South India, and he lived about 2,500 years ago. They were Siddha, literally means the perfected ones. They were yogis with special powers accomplished through their meditation practice. They were very good, especially at medicine. And Patanjali was unique. He wrote a great treatise on Sanskrit grammar, Mahabhashya, commentary on Panini's grammar rules. He also wrote an extended commentary on Charaka Samhita, one of the principal texts in Ayurveda. So has excelled in yoga, Sanskrit, and also medicine. And Patanjali is featured in the Sthala Puranam, which is the legend of a temple, the very famous Chidambaram temple in Tamil Nadu, where he wanted to get a view, darshan of Shiva in the Nataraja form, the cosmic dance. So here shown Patanjali, and this person is called Vyagrapada. He is also a great rishi who attained liberation through his devotion to Lord Shiva. So this is Patanjali. He was a rishi who lived 2500 years ago, and he wrote this Yoga Sutras. He compiled all the yoga texts into Yoga Sutras. There's also a popular saying, a popular legend, that Patanjali, the incarnation of Adisesha, descended onto the earth, onto a very pious yogini. Her name was called Gonika, very pious woman, very great yogi. And Patanjali was born to her. He chose her to be his mother, and then he taught 1,000 students behind a screen. So the legend goes, if you are interested, you can look at this article. But that concludes my introduction to the Yoga Sutra thing. Yoga Sutra upcoming class. I've given you an overview of the Yoga Sutras. And so we will commence this on December 6th. It'll be 8 classes for the first chapter. We will go in detail, use a lot of analogies, and study the Samadhipada about the mind. First, everything about the mind, then all the vrittis, the issues with the mind, the kleshas, the afflictions, how to remove them, and the different states of samadhi. Very systematically, Patanjali goes through that. So we will study that starting December 6th. Okay, that I'll stop the recording.